Hello and welcome to the Divorced Dadvocate, where we help dads create a healthy and less traumatic divorce. My name is Jude Sandoval and I'm your host. Today, we are going to talk about a topic that you may not have thought about. I know that I did not think about it during my divorce, but it can be, and I found that is probably one of the most crucial things to think about when going through your divorce. And that is the relationship that you are going to have with your soon to be ex, or maybe your ex now, after your marriage relationship ends. And my guest here today is a awesome expert on this. But before I introduce him, I wanted to just remind you that the divorce quiz is still up at the divorcedadvocate.com under divorce quiz tab. It is just an amazing tool to gauge where you're at in your divorce compared to others who have gone through it. It's going to take you about 10 minutes. It'll spit out immediate results to you. If you need some help in interpreting those, you have a free opportunity to schedule into my calendar some time for us to do that, or even just talk about what you've got going on with your divorce. So check that out at thedivorcedadvocate.com under the divorce quiz tab, or you can go to it directly at thedivorcequiz.com. Secondly, it is my birthday month, and because I'm turning 50, which is mind-boggling to me, I know that's old to a lot of you listening, I am offering the 50% off, which is mind-boggling to me because I've never done this on your coaching package. So schedule a time at talkwithjude.com. Let's see what you've got going on and get you in at this rate that is will be for the duration of our coaching throughout your divorce. So it's not like it's going to go up after your first few months. It will be 50% off throughout the entire time. So take advantage of that birthday month, 50% off. Okay, my guest today, at 19 years of age, experienced a traumatic accident, which the doctor suggested would only give him a 5% chance of survival. Through resilience and his desire to fight, he dove into personal development as a vessel for healing himself. That journey has now led him to guide others with a message of hope and resilience, helping people get through what may be perceived as insurmountable obstacles. With 25 years experience as a coach and speaker, his passion for helping people affect change by asking powerful questions and refusing to settle for mediocrity has allowed him to impact lives in profound ways. Please welcome Robert Muncaster. Hi, Robert.
Hey, Jude. Thanks so much. Good to be here.
Man, that is an awesome story, and I sincerely appreciate you coming on and chatting with us about the relationship after the relationship, which you came up with that title and I think is brilliant. And if you don't mind, I'm going to steal that in the future and talking about that with men, because we chat about it, particularly in private session and group sessions about that, is setting yourself up for success after the marriage relationship ends, but the co-parenting relationship begins. And that's a huge thing that we don't think about. I know that I didn't think about it. Like, I was just trying to get through it, right? But before we talk about that, share with us your story is fantastic. Share with us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you. And yeah, you can't steal something that's been given to you, so take it.
Thanks. That's why I asked permission too, though. So
absolutely. So I live in just outside of Toronto, Ontario, Canada, and as you had mentioned, a huge life-changing moment when I was 19. I was involved in a car accident. The car swerved 3 lanes into an oncoming truck, and I was in a coma for about a month and a half. And everything happens for a reason, and that reason's for my benefit. And so, instead of accepting that, I may be disabled for the rest of my life, I opted to persevere. I studied psychology books. I just tapped into knowledge and tapped into other people's knowledge and wisdom to give myself a perspective that allowed me to persevere. Persistence is it's a synonym for faith. And so, having faith is persisting, is persevering. And, I'm simply graced that this is my journey, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Wow, that's phenomenal. I love what you said about everything is happening for me. And that's really hard to grasp when you're going through such a difficult and challenging time like divorce. And I know that you're recently divorced, and I'm 9.5 years divorced. But for me, that took many years to come to that realization, and it came to me after many years because of being able to look back and see and kind of trace back, well, this happened and that led to this, which led to this, which led to this, which has been good and fulfilling for my relationship. But, you know, can you talk a little bit about what you've done in your past with your accent, but also recently you just went through a divorce too, in keeping that mindset, that persistent mindset of, this is happening for me, not to me.
Thank you. So I met my car accident happened in 1996, and I met my wife, well, my ex-wife, in 2001, and she came at at a point in my life where I was questioning the meaning and feeling alone, and I had just been headhunted by a massive company, and I had moved to Toronto, so I didn't know anybody, and she's an angel. She is such an amazing person. And when where I was at when we met, that it was just great timing of the universe. And we built, I contributed to her becoming a better person. And without question, she really showed me what love and compassion and, those things that women have that men may not necessarily have the same tools. So, we were together for 18 years. And when we divorced, it was simply, it felt like we were living as roommates, and I wasn't, I didn't feel like I was able to take care of her as best I could. And so the constant conflict and, I just one day it came up. I was actually caught cheating. And she said, if I told you if this happens, then that's it. And
Mm-hmm.
I said, you're right. You're right. You know what? I don't want to continue to put you through this. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not serving us by being together. We had we had a beautiful life, a wonderful house. And, it was mediocre. I could have been comfortable for the rest of my life. And
Right.
it just didn't feel right to take her time. I'd already, in a sense, I'd already taken 20 years of her prime.
Mm-hmm.
She was 25, and when we divorced, she was 45. So I felt this sense of what, I love her so much. I need to let her go. I need to let her live.
Mm-hmm.
As a woman, she has these prime years ahead of her, and I felt that I'd taken enough, and it was time to just move on. And so that was the decision. Gratefully, we maintained communication, and we worked out, this is what I need to have, and this is what I am willing to let go. And
Mm-hmm.
I'll share with you, I let go of a lot more because my mindset was just make sure I leave her better than I found her. Don't leave
Okay.
her with regrets, and it was the worst. It was the best thing I could possibly do
Mm-hmm.
was leave her better than I found her, and I think I did, and that gave me peace of mind. Let me tell you that, there was no animosity, there was no anger. It was simply let's get this done, let's complete the task, and we can move on. So
Right. And that's mature. And it sounds like you guys had an amicable uh, divorce process, which the majority, 95% of divorces go through like that. Unfortunately, I think a lot of people tuning in and listening are either thinking about divorce. And so that's a positive message to them that it can be done amicably, but a lot are going through a difficult, challenging time, maybe a contentious divorce. And so how, which is one of the big challenges in thinking about that. So, what are some ways that some of the dads listening can have that mindset that you have, which is like, I want this to come as I want to leave this better than when I started, particularly when you're dealing with something like maybe something that is contentious, something that you haven't, maybe even something you haven't chosen, right? You didn't choose to this divorce, and it's not something that you really want. What can you take from, and what tools can you use to try to keep that mindset?
It, I'm reminded of a story when I was going through my separation in this process. A man that I have great respect for, he had been divorced 10 years before, and it was a substantially costly divorce for him. It was millions of dollars was divvied up. And
Mm.
one of the stories he shared with me that he got from his lawyer was the $50,000 toaster. You know, it's a toaster. Am I wanting to drag the whole process out and go through the lawyers and the courts to fight over because we couldn't agree that you get to have the toaster, the cappuccino maker, whatever the ridiculous item is? One of the most important things that I've just been made even more aware of recently is everything in life that was worth of any value is free. When we
Yeah.
were born, we got our mind for free. We got our intelligence, our body. These are all free things. And it's funny, all the things that we look to buy, whatever it is, everything that costs money can be replaced. So
Right.
those aren't the valuable things. And so, knowing that the intelligence, the wisdom, these are all free. And that's what to focus on. If I start focusing on material and there's no way she's getting that, it's just gonna boomerang and come back. When I went through the divorce, I didn't know where I was gonna go.
Hmm.
My wife at the time, she had immediately bought another property, and she had started her transition already, and I didn't know
Hmm.
where I was going to go. I ended up renting a room from a friend for a short period, and so it made it easy for me to let go of everything. Take whatever you want. Just take all of it, because I'm going to put it in storage, and it's going to cost me $1,000 a year, what have you. And when am I ever going to see it? And what attachment? I can always buy this stuff again if it's important. I can always get it again. But getting leaving her better than I found her is, it includes just, what, let's just walk away peacefully. I think there's a misconception that women and men can be friends outside of a relationship, outside of an intimate relationship, and it's simply not true. As I understand, a woman only has room in her biology for one man in her life, and it was her father. And then when she got married, the most important decision she made in her life was the man she's going to marry. So there's only room for one man in her life. And if the divorce is going through, if there's a separation, just be really, really clear to be prepared to let go. Um,
Mm.
I'm sure, your audience, I'm sure a lot of men can relate to, when a woman doesn't want anything from you, you're invisible to them. You speak to them and they just see right past you. This is a biological self-defense mechanism for women. They simply are not machined to have more than one man in their life. And so if you aren't then their body, the evolution, just you don't exist. And it's not a bad thing. It
Right.
simply is what it is.
That's fantastic. I have never ever heard that, but it makes absolutely perfect sense, particularly when men are struggling with, and there's a misconception also around the fact that men don't struggle with breakups or divorces. We struggle immensely with this. It weighs on us very, very, very much. And so that's a great point, is once they've moved on, they need to move on, and they need to disconnect from that. And that might be, that's exactly why they do that. And so I think that's a really good point. That's a great pearl for people to pick up on. And so that, which leads me to the point of taking the time for yourself in then beginning to determine what that relationship's going to look like, but also what you're going to do. Because then once that break happens and she's moving on, you really need to stay in your lane and do the work that you need to do, because you can't control. And even if she's not moving on, or she's doing all, like, making things difficult, or might have personality disorder or whatever it might be, that is making it more challenging to go through this process, you still need to stay in your lane. You still need to do your work because, and I want you to speak to this next point, is you're modeling something for your children going forward in how you handle this process. So talk about that for a little bit.
Thank you. So, the role of the father in the daughter's life is to show her the man she is going to marry. And if I have a good relationship with my daughter, she's going to mirror me and she's going
Mm-hmm.
to find somebody of the characteristics of me and she's going to marry them. If she doesn't like, or if she has a lot of tension in the relationship with her father, her ultimate revenge is to marry the exact opposite. And
Sure.
so the role of the father for the daughter is to just continuously demonstrate to her what a man is. And so, I'm sure you can relate. And, when I consider it, I relate to it is, the most important women in my life is my mother. As a child, it doesn't matter. I've got a father and a mother, but my mom, she takes a certain, um, she's on the pedestal. She's the one that showed me nurturing. She's the one that introduced love to me and truly unconditional love and made sure I was taken care of. And so if I'm looking at it from a child's eyes, the father, his relationship with the mother, it's not about, you guys aren't together now. It's, why are you treating my mother this way? She's the
Mm-hmm.
most perfect thing I've ever met, I'll ever be introduced to. So how are you treating her? Because I'm only reading it as you're attacking the one person I know that I love, the
Right.
unconditional.
Right.
The role of the father for the son is to make his life difficult, but not too difficult. It's to prepare him for his adulthood. And if I, as a father, if I act like the mom in the relationship, hey, we're buddies and we're good friends,
Mm-hmm.
and there's no issues, I'm setting himself up for a tough life because he
Right.
doesn't get introduced to the true struggle it is as a man. Our life as a man, our life is it's struggle. It's
Yep.
constant work and taking care of and ensuring things are, um, the way they are. And if I don't give that to my son, where is he going to get it from? Is it going to be a gang? Is it going to be, where is he going to get these life lessons from if I'm not the one that's making him feel a little challenged? I think a great analogy is, a mother sees a child running up the tree. She says, "Get down, you're going to get hurt." The
Right.
father sees the child running up the tree. He's like, don't go up too high. You might get really hurt. You know,
Yeah.
it's
Right.
it's very two different dynamics, and I think it's so important to recognize the balance that exists for the child when the mother and the father are in the picture and working cohesively.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And there's a ton of psychology that goes into what you just described with the relationships between the fathers and the daughters, and the fathers and the daughters, and the mothers and the sons, and the mothers and the daughters, which we're not going to go into because we could we could probably talk for days about that. But I did also want to touch on the point you made about um, you know about teaching the boys, or most men don't know who they are. So this, and it seems to be, and I know this was a case for me, this was a wake up call and an opportunity for self-development through the ending of my marriage. And a lot of men that listen, that come to our community are really looking for that. And so talk a little bit about this as an opportunity, because sometimes, like, I didn't see it right away, but like I always say, I need to beat my head against the wall many, many times before I get it figured out. But it really is an opportunity if you didn't have maybe that father figure like you just described, or a mother, or a healthy childhood, to then utilize this as a maybe a 2.0, if you will focus on doing the work that you need to.
100%. One of the things that I discovered even more recently is, a certain definition of what's the definition of happiness. And
Mm.
the best definition I've seen so far is to be without mental anguish.
Huh.
Because when I'm happy, I don't even know. I don't stop and go, "Am I happy right now in this moment?" I don't. I don't even register that I'm happy. I just am, because I'm without mental anguish. I'm without negative thoughts. I'm not without conflict in my mind. And so the idea of, if this certain event happens, I'm going to be happy. I'll be happier when I'm on the beach 5,000 miles away. I'll be happy. It doesn't exist. It's a path to a fool's paradise. It
Yeah.
simply will never happen. And so the most important thing is to be happy, is to be without mental anguish. And so if I've got conflicts going on, the monkeys in my head are screaming at me, then, that's the opportunity to be happy, is addressing those monkeys. And, you said, it's a struggle to learn to know who we are, or identify who I am. And
Right.
it's true. But, if we try to figure out who we are, it's kind of like trying to bite our own teeth. It's not, that's Alan Watts. But it just doesn't happen. And so to be without mental anguish is to be happy. And that's where we start from. That's where I identify who I am, because, when I remove these noises and voices inside or outside of my head, I get to identify who I am. And, it's simply loving. It's, I know men don't have as clear of a definition of what love might mean. But it's simply, if you're going to, an idea is to speak to anybody you speak with in life, anybody you're talking to, act like you're speaking to God directly. And how can you not take care of that person? How can you not want to be caring and concerned for that person? And the little secret is, it's not them that you're loving, it's yourself. Because everybody I see, I can only identify from my characteristics, from my beliefs. So
Right.
everybody I'm looking at is a characteristic of myself. And so when I'm just loving on the world and everybody I see, it's, as if I'm speaking to God, it gives the opportunity of just feeling the love back, the cause and effect of being showered with that greatness that everybody deserves.
Right. That's fantastic. And one of the things we talk about in the show is making sure to nurture all parts of yourself during this process, not only mental, physical, and emotional, but your spiritual part of your life as well. And touching on what you just said, which is just get connected with God, or get connected with love, is a great one. What are some other tips, though, for maybe somebody's not there, right? They're just struggling. You talked about feeling, would you describe feeling alone and questioning your meaning, and so they're not at that place where they can just get in a place of Lord. What are maybe some even easier, more baby steps baby steps to doing that, and getting in touch with yourself, getting in touch with meeting, getting to that place that you described?
There's so many different things we can do. One of the things, Abraham Lincoln is a great example. He would write these letters to his enemies, and they would just be so full of vitriol and so much anger. And he would give them to his wife to mail out, and he didn't know she didn't mail one of them. For the longest time, he thought these letters were going out and he was speaking his mind. And what the magic is behind that is, it's not about the other person. It's about me. This is how I'm feeling. And so even if I write a letter, but don't send it, just write out, this is what I'm feeling. At least I'm giving myself an opportunity to speak where I think I'm at, or what's going on. And by having it in paper and looking at it, it's like seeing it from a different angle.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like that. So journaling, maybe, or if you have the means, getting into therapy or coaching, or at least some sort of group support where you can talk about those things and not keep it down, and keep it within yourself. Because that happens as men. What you just described about the questioning meaning, feeling alone, that happens a lot, particularly during divorce, because our lives have been around the family, and we've got this family dynamic, and maybe all of our friends are part of the family friends, and then all of a sudden that goes away.
Yes, and I believe men live a life of rejection. If you go back to being 12 or 8 or 9 or what have you, and being at a dance and asking that girl to dance, and she's like, no, I don't want anything to do. As we go through life as men,
You must have been at the same dance as I was at.
I was actually against the same wall. Yeah.
Yeah.
uh,
It seems like that these days too, but anyway, that's a different story.
it's we live a life of rejection. That's what prepares us. That's what hardens us for life as men, to be able to take care of our family and take care of ourselves. And the exact opposite, if you look at it, women, the most ideal lifestyle in the world is the single woman. And why? Because they're pursued. They live a
Mm,
life of being pursued. Their whole life you know is just people pursuing them. And so I think the misconception is that a man should feel oh, it's my turn to be pursued now. No,
no.
sorry, man. No, that's not it. You got to do the work, and you got to be great with rejection.
Yeah.
It's not about you. It's simply life.
Right.
To flip back to the other part of, getting therapy or getting help, men believe they can do everything themselves. It's part
Of
of our
course.
survival. It's our struggle. It's our life of rejection. Oh, nobody's going to help me. I gotta do this
Right.
myself. It's so important. It's so important to, even if it starts with you talking to an inanimate object or a wall, is speaking what you're thinking so that your ears can hear it. And it's hearing
Yeah.
it from a different perspective. And, if you choose to, I highly recommend it is, yeah, speak to a therapist, speak to other, join groups where there's other men going through the same struggle, so that what I see in you is what I see in me. So when I'm
Yeah.
seeing these other men struggling, it's not about, oh man, I got to go and sit with all these dudes again and hear all these things. It's actually what I see in you is what I see in me. I can only
Yeah.
see you from my beliefs. I can't see you any other way. So, that's the magic of actually speaking and asking for help. At this moment in your life, it's probably the most important thing, maybe especially for your children, is
Yeah.
that you take care of your stuff so that it doesn't spill over to where it doesn't need to go.
Yes, and that's actually demonstrating strength to your children by asking for help. Because imagine your children fast forward to their adulthood and they're not asking you or anybody else for help. You would never want that for them. You would want them to ask you for help, or anybody else to help them get through that. So by doing that, you're actually modeling something that is a very, very important uh, uh, trait or lesson for them going forward in their adulthood. So absolutely, the men that are listening, get involved. Whatever, all the ones that we just described, our community, a friend. I was fortunate, I had just a friend. Now, friends don't always give the greatest advice, so just temper that, or family members, or whatever, but it's absolutely critically important.
Hmm.
Like you
Yeah,
said.
what I like to say is take my advice. I'm not using it, right? It's
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. That's perfect. I'll write that one down. You got lots of pearls today, Robert, that I need to write down and remember. Let's talk a little bit to finish up here, though, about what you talked about or alluded to with discomfort, and then you talked to earlier about happiness being the not having mental anguish. And so some would be listening and saying, well, I'm never going to be happy, right? Because we always
Mhm.
have something going on, feelings coming up, something we're dealing with, so some sort of mental anguish. And then talking about the fact that, well, yeah, there's, as men, this is kind of what we need in our life. Steel sharpens steel, right? To have this discomfort, and not ignoring the discomfort, which seems to be how our society is mostly structured, which is self-medicate, hide from it, repress it, be distracted. We could be distracted from the moment we get up to the time we go to sleep. Let's talk about embracing the discomfort, particularly during a process like this, and utilizing that for modeling for life 2.0, and how it can go, and how we can go forward with that.
Yes, in the Bible, there's a line that's repeated a number of times. I'm not sure exactly how many, but it was, and so it came to pass.
Mm,
That one statement is so empowering, because regardless of what I've been through or you've been through in our lifetime, it came to pass.
right.
And so if I'm struggling with, oh my goodness, this is going to get so much worse and this isn't going to get better, and it's building and it's building, if I can stop for 2 seconds and say, and so it came to pass, now I can focus on that. It's gonna go through, and the magic is in the journey. So what am I, what flowers am I not smelling in this moment by being so focused on getting past this? What am I missing? What am I taking
Right.
myself out of? And if I'm missing the lessons, the lessons continue until the lesson is learned. And
Yes.
and until the lesson is learned, the lessons will get harder. And so going through this process is for me. This process is to show me something about myself that I might not be aware of in this moment. It's just there to make me a better person. And
Right.
so if I'm so struggling on, oh, I can't wait till this is over, I'm probably going to miss the lesson, and it's going to come back to bite me later on. It's going to repeat itself.
Really? So you're saying it's going to keep coming up in my life until I figure it out, huh? No way.
What I resist
Yes.
persists. Yes.
Yes. What I resist persists. So embrace that discomfort, embrace the challenge right now, because we are men. We can overcome anything that we put our minds to. For those of you that are listening and are going through a challenging time, Robert will second this. You will get through it. You will be better on the back end of this if you pay attention to what the work is that you need to do. And so, Robert, so for the last thing, give your let's say your number one pearl. You've given us so many pearls today. Your number one pearl about the relationship after the relationship, and what the divorce or divorcing dads that are listening can do in regard to that.
I think the most important thing to be conscious of is your children are watching everything. Everything. They're like sponges because they're developing.
Yeah.
Especially the first 7 years of a child's life, they're building their operating system. Once the 7 years is passed, it just moves on to software updates and fragmentation and all sorts of stuff. But if you recognize 0 to 7 for a child is their operating system is being built. And, moving to the relationship with the mother is just know how I'm treating the mother of my children. She is going to treat your children with that same energy. It's going to
Yeah.
boomerang straight through her, and it's going to ricochet and go to your children. And
Yeah.
so, if you can't speak with her directly, then, find a mediator, find a middle ground until you can be settled with it. Because there's no, there's room for one ego in a relationship, and it's not yours.
Yeah, right. Okay. Well, another pearl, and we'll leave it with that. Robert, how can the listeners connect with you?
You can go to my website, robertmuncaster.com, and you can get a hold of me. I'm in the process of building it, so more and more content being put on it. But yeah, I'd love to hear from your guests, and if there's any questions, anything that they'd like to hear, I'm an open book, and I'd love to just make your life a little bit better. That's my goal.
Awesome. Awesome. So please connect with Robert. And if you found value in what we shared today, please like, subscribe, leave a comment. If you're listening, it helps us immensely to, if you'll leave a review or a star rating on any of the podcast platforms that you're listening on. Podcast is now in the top 10% of all podcasts, almost 3 million worldwide, thanks to you. So please continue to keep sharing it. In the show notes below, we'll have a link to get in touch with Robert, as well as for you to get involved, like we said, with group meetings or anything else. So I encourage everybody that is listening to get involved at whatever level or whatever place that you need to as well. Robert Muncaster, thank you so much for being here today. You left us with so many pearls. I'm going to have to go back and listen again and write those all down so that I can commit them to memory.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jude. You're very welcome.